All right. Welcome back, everyone, to Lakers Latest. I hope you guys had a good Monday. As good as a Monday can be. No one likes it. Yeah, I hope you guys had a good Monday. Get that first day out of the week. Do what you got to do. First day at work. Yeah, kind of get the week started. It's always the worst one, but we always got to do it at the same time. So you know what I mean. So not too much there. Yeah, I'm coming for you guys from upstate New York again today. I'll be here for the next couple days. And it's about 62 degrees Fahrenheit here compared to the crazy hotness that was LA. So it definitely feels really nice. But yeah, so let's get going today, guys. So I'm gonna start, and I know I've discussed this kind of ad nauseum. It started like a month back, and it's speculation, and now basically, we've gotten to the point where it kind of seems like there's legs on this thing, and it's actually, I'm not gonna say it's gonna happen before the regular season, but I definitely think there's a heightened chance that it is going to happen, and that would be trading for Andrew Wiggins. Now, kind of talked about what his role would be on the team. He's kind of that perfect two-way wing fit in the NBA today. Really, to win, two-way wings are probably the most important position. Guy who can score a little bit, a guy who can defend. And Wiggins is just that, 17 to 20 points a game. Outside of a couple in Minnesota where I think he averaged 23 plus. But yeah, he's a talented scorer, good 3-point shooter, guy that would definitely fit on the team very well. I think good defender. We saw what he did when the Warriors won the title a couple years ago. We know he can show up in the playoffs, but really up until now, it was kind of just speculative. There hadn't really been any legs on like, oh, the Lakers have reached out to the Heat. They're actually discussing a deal because the Heat wanted to obviously try and contend, but kind of like I've said before, that the Heat are in no man's land. And basically, I just don't see them competing in the East anytime soon. Even in a year now where Halliburton's out and Jason Tatum's out, they can't compete. Like, to me in the East, the Knicks and the Cavs are pretty clear cut, a cut above the rest of the teams. I would say the Knicks are probably the top. But yeah, I think now the Heat are kind of starting to realize that they didn't really have. Norman Powell was a really nice addition. They got him on the cheap, but even with that, I still don't see them contending. So I think now they're kind of looking at it like, okay, trading Wiggins is a little bit more of a realistic possibility now. Obviously they traded Jimmy Butler, they got Wiggins back, but is Wiggins really a long-term part of their future, or would they rather they get maybe a couple pieces, younger players, picks that maybe they can integrate into the team a little bit more, work and develop? And I would say that's probably what they're looking at. Definitely for Pat Riley. Obviously the Heat have that voodoo magic. Um, but yeah, like I said, up until yesterday, really, it had been pretty speculative, but now there's been reports from multiple different publications and reporters that they are kind of in the beginnings of discussing a deal. So now, up until, like I said yesterday, it was just talk, speculative, but now there's real legs to this thing. And again, I'm not saying that it's definitely going to happen before the regular season, but if you had asked me 2 weeks ago, what are the chances the Lakers trade for Wiggins before the regular season, I would have said like 5%. And now, like, I'll probably bump it up to at least 20, maybe 25 if I'm feeling good. Still obviously a low percentage, but that's where it is right now. If the talks obviously continue to go through today, tomorrow, the week, the chances of it happening are higher. And I think from the Lakers' perspective, they're probably looking at it like, if we can get him, we want to get him now. We want to get him in as early as possible so he can get comfortable with the team, build that chemistry, build that cohesion with Luka and LeBron and all the other guys. And I think that makes sense. I think if you're going to take a swing at a guy like Wiggins, now that the Heat have kind of made him actually available before speculative, you want to do it before the regular season. Like, obviously, I mean, you saw with Luka last year. Like, Luka's unbelievable, but still, he was thrown into the fire in the craziest trade in NBA history, and it took him a while to get comfortable. Obviously, the hope is that he's going to be very comfortable now. But the point is, when you trade for guys mid-season, especially guys as talented as Wiggins, it's kind of hard to integrate yourself into that team after you've played for a different team half the season. Now, if you're a role player, it's easy. Your job's going to be exactly the same role player. But when you have an elevated role, especially with a guy like Wiggins playing with LeBron, playing with Luka Doncic, like, you're going to have to get used to it. You're going to have to make adjustments. So from the Lakers' perspective, it makes more sense to try and trade for him now so he can build that chemistry, make all those adjustments in the mid, like early in the season. So that way, by the time the trade deadline comes, now you're looking for maybe additional role players, and Wiggins feels pretty comfortable by then, rather than, him being thrown to the fire and just dealing with it and figuring it out. So, yeah, I do think this is a realistic possibility now, significantly more than it was a few weeks ago. So we're obviously going to keep a very close eye on it in the coming weeks, right before preseason. Training camp starts next week. Actually, I think media day is tomorrow or in a few days. We're pretty close, but yeah. So we'll see what happens with that. But I do think there's a decent chance it could potentially happen now. All right, next we're gonna talk about Dalton Knecht. We've talked about him before, plenty. To me, it's like, what is his role on the team? Is it better putting him in a Wiggins trade or a trade for another player, or should they keep him? Like, at the end of the day, the Lakers don't have too many young, like, role players. Obviously, Luka's here, he's a superstar. Austin Reeves is not a superstar, but borderline star, if not star, really, really good player. And he's a young player, but he's also due for a massive contract extension after this year, or next year. I think next year. I always mix it up. But point is, outside of Austin Reeves, the Lakers don't. I mean, they obviously signed Laravia. You drafted Thiero, and the hope is that he can develop into a solid player. But, I mean, Knecht is probably their best young talent outside of Austin Reeves. I'm talking about, like, role player young talent, not what Austin Reeves has developed into. But, again, I'm a big Knecht guy. I've been a huge Knecht guy since Tennessee. The dude balled out. He's just an absolute baller. And we saw when he was comfortable, like in like the first couple months, especially in December, when he was, I think Reeves was out, and he was starting those couple games. He had like 9 threes, 37 versus the Jazz. Like, he's capable of doing that. And I feel like we kind of just like forget that, and basically like we just think about what he was after the trade. Sorry, not the trade, the rescinded trade, if you will. But basically, we know what he's capable of. And obviously, in the second half of last year, he wasn't completely himself because you kind of had the crazy dealing with that non-trade. And it was just, I don't think it was something that was easy for him. I don't think it would be easy for anyone. But I do think that there's still a lot left in the tank for Dalton Knecht. I do think he can still be a really solid addition to the Lakers, a really solid player for the Lakers, but at the same time, I think that he's probably going to have to get included in that Andrew Wiggins deal if it were to happen. So we'll keep an eye on it. I think if you can get a guy like Wiggins, you trade Knecht as part of that deal. But if it's just like I've seen, I'm not gonna pop the names off the top of my head, but I've seen some trades with Knecht this offseason where it's like come on, like that doesn't make sense. I don't know where this bright light came from. But yeah, I feel like Knecht is a guy. Everyone needs a guy like him, especially playing with Luka. You need as many shooters as you can possibly get, and I really just think that he could be a very solid part of this team. We've seen him do it before. I certainly believe he can do it again. But with that being said, is he better off staying, or is he better off being used as a trade piece? Again, I'm fine with him staying. I really like Knecht, but if you're going to trade him, it has to be for a player that is going to elevate you like Wiggins. Now, obviously, you're going to need to give up more than just Knecht to get Wiggins. But the point is, if it's not for a guy like Wiggins, I would prefer to keep him because I do think he has another level that he can get to. The question is, can he get to it on this team? That remains to be seen. But that's definitely one we'll keep an eye on. I think we'll know if he's going to be a Laker within the next few weeks. I think if the Wiggins deal happens, it would probably happen within the next week. So we'll keep an eye on that. I'm going to transition over to the bench. So the bench is interesting. Now, obviously, we don't 100% know, excuse me, if the Lakers are going to start Austin Reeves, if they're going to start Marcus Smart. If I had to guess, it's probably going to be Austin Reeves. I think it would be like Austin Reeves starts. Marcus Smart will probably be, in the end, play a lot in the fourth quarter to guard the top players, top guards, forwards. But if let's assume Austin Reeves is just starting, just to play devil's advocate. And then the bench, we're looking at Vanderbilt, Vincent, Kleba, Marcus Smart, Jake Laravia, Jackson Hayes, and Thiero. So out of those guys, like, first of all, you need something from Vincent, Kleba, or Vanderbilt. Like, all those guys are making $11 million a season. You can't just have none of them be useful. And obviously, Gabe Vincent, he's not going to be the same now that he's not on the Heat. He doesn't have the Heat voodoo magic, but he's still a guy that should be able to be a role player on this team. I think Jackson Hayes is definitely the backup center. I think Smart will probably be that ball handler off the bench again, assuming if Reeves starts, and that lead defender who's going to play. But I could also see Smart starting. So it will be very interesting to see what they do there. Laravia is obviously a huge piece. They signed him with the hope that he's a young player who's ascending, getting better, really good 3-point shooter, solid defender, not elite, but he's definitely going to be a guy that they expect to put, they expect a lot from him coming off the bench. He should be able to start, play with Luka, do all that. So I feel like Smart, Laravia, Jackson Hayes are 3 locks to be a part of that, and then everyone else it's up for interpretation. So one of Vincent, Kleber, and Vanderbilt has to step up. That's huge. We've seen it from Vanderbilt before. We know he's a solid rebounder, a great defender. So I think it could be him. Kleber, he can shoot, but he doesn't bring a ton to the table. Fierro's the interesting one. I don't expect him to play much in the beginning, but the hope would be that he can develop as the season goes along, be a solid defensive player that could get rotation minutes. But I do expect him to be in the G League a lot. But I think one of those guys, Vanderbilt, Vincent, or Kleber, has to step up and be a legit rotation piece because all of them are making $11 million and they're all overpaid. And one of them just has to step up and be a lock for sure rotation piece. So I think it should be decent. The bench should be decent, but one of those 3 guys has to step up, assuming they're not going to trade them in a deal for like a Wiggins. All right, last piece on the menu today, folks. As always, I feel like I'm just ending with Luka every day because he's just doing something different. So Luka kind of talked about, second year of the Lakers, preseason, and he was kind of just talking about he wants to take up a bigger leadership role. Obviously, he was thrown into the fire last year in that insane trade, and so you kind of, yes, he's Luka Doncic, but this is LeBron's team. He's the leader of the team and all that. And now, Luka knows this is his team in the future. He knows this is probably LeBron's last year, and I think this is great to see. Obviously, it's great to see him in good shape, but I think that leadership role was the next step. We saw him do that in Dallas, but I think given that LeBron was here, it wasn't necessarily needed right out the gate. But given that he is the face of this franchise now, and he's going to be for at least the next 3 seasons, hopefully 4 to 10 after that, hopefully never puts on another jersey in his career. But seeing him come out and say, yeah, I want to take that leadership role. He talked about preseason. It's important to develop that relationship with his teammates, build chemistry, get to know them. Those are all things you want to see from Luka. And he has said these things before, but I think he understands, given the fact that he now is the face of the Lakers, he understands what comes with it. And that's great to see. And he's, obviously, we're really excited, but just super excited to see Luka in the best shape of his career. Obviously, take on more of a leadership role, vocal, at least on offense. But he's an unbelievable player, and I'm really excited to see him potentially take the next step in his game and also be more of a leader on and off the court. It's important to stay off the court too. Not that Luka's had any bad issues, but you want to when you represent the Lakers, you're representing them on the court and off the court. So you have to make sure you're doing everything right. You're not in the spotlight for the wrong reasons. Again, not that Luka is, but these are all things you have to keep in mind when you're playing for the Lakers. So excited for Luka to take on that leadership role. Excited for the season. We're about 16th, so the first preseason game, I believe, is October 3rd. I think just a little over 2 weeks away. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, man, guys, I can't wait. It's going to be awesome. That's all I got for you today, and yeah, I'll catch you guys tomorrow.